Welcome to Mams Talk, where Mams Talk Survivor. Today with us, as always, is Jess. But we also have a little special guest, a new ma'am, Zach. How do we
I
know you?
I was on both of the seasons of or of Survivor.
Yeah. And
And
about
I'm
to be
hosting the next one, which is very
huge
exciting.
Big
news.
news.
Yeah. So Zach is here to give us a little bit of insight on some of the things that occurred. As they were not in the episode, but we need a little bit of perspective here. Also later joining us will be Ella, to give her thoughts on her tragic boo. So we're going to jump into the episode, and we open with the succulents, and CJ is telling of an interesting lie to Allie about having an idol.
Mhm.
And saying that they're going to plot to get Gabby out because she's a threat. Where do we think his head is at in this moment?
I honestly wrote that I was confused about the plan, but I also didn't try that hard to go back and understand it. So
I was about to say, I feel like the only logic I could come up with is like maybe he saw himself as being like people maybe thinking that he needed to go before merge because he was a comp threat. And if he pretended to have an idol that they wouldn't put votes on him. But it's so early in the game to even like begin to bluff that you have an idol. Like to try to hold on to that bluff for the entire game would have been like would be insane.
Yeah, it's also funny to me because he immediately gives into it.
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out if his intention was to keep Allie in the dark on this and then he just folded, or if he was just messing with her head a little. It's
Yeah.
hard for me to tell.
I think he was trying to keep her in the dark, but Allie is so disarming, and she's just like, okay, but like, do you really have it?
Like,
And he's
yeah,
like, no.
she asked
You
like three
got me.
times.
That's good to know for future seasons that CJ may be on. Just like ask a few times and maybe you may get the secret out.
And
Yeah.
then they talk about some plan to tell Gabby that he has an idol and then tell her that they're going to vote out Caroline and then get Gabby actually. And I'm again confused how the idol fits into this plan, but
I
you
think,
know,
yeah, I don't know. I think because Gabby wants CJ out, but
oh, if he has an idol, he's not an
if he
option, so
has an
they'll
idol,
settle
then
on
she'll just vote for
Caroline.
Kara. I guess it's a way for him to not even get any votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like come to a truce between them or whatever.
Which is
But yeah,
fair, I guess.
so
But
I again think it's interesting how much they're gaming before the challenge has even started. This is quite a like specific plan,
Yeah.
yeah,
and they haven't even lost the challenge.
they're always gaming. That this succulent
Mhm.
tribe does not stop. It's really
They
interesting.
don't.
I
Yeah.
also noted here that Allie swears that she will not turn on CJ on her newborn baby, her mother, and her wife. So a lot of people she's swearing on.
I like that she just said my new baby. Not even like my newborn baby. I think she
Was
just
it
said
new
my
baby?
new baby.
So who had the baby here? Is it Allie or her wife? Because if it's Allie, she's recovered remarkably.
Maybe it was neither of them. Maybe it was
It was
an
like
adopted baby.
Wow.
yeah. Or a
And
surrogate
maybe
just for
that's why
fun.
she didn't say newborn. She just said new.
True.
Yeah,
It's an
that's
older
fair.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she swears on them, but ultimately does go against it. So maybe some bad juju on her family here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Allie's thinking a lot about merge and is like, you know what? I think CJ also needs to go as well as Gabby. Um, so she lied about her family, and then
Mhm.
Allie calls Ella Allie.
An identity crisis if I've ever seen one.
Took her a sec to
Yeah.
figure out what went
Yeah,
wrong there.
there was quite a delay. And yeah, she's speculating about like Dylan, you, Jess, and
Mhm.
Ella having an alliance, which
Yeah.
isn't too far off.
Yeah.
She's a pretty good read
And
there.
a fair read, I would say.
Yeah. So then we go back to the dragon fruits, your lovely
Yeah.
tribe.
Yeah,
Um,
post vote out, dragon fruits recovery.
right. And Dylan
And
admits to you, Jess, that he voted for you.
yeah, I break the silence and say, who was it? In a classic post-tribal honesty hour that we have.
Yeah, and I also wrote here that I think he's really good at making people feel comfortable with him even after
Mm-hmm.
he goes against them. I don't know what your thoughts on that as someone who like actually played with him, but that's how I read it.
I'm
Yeah, go
for
ahead, Zach.
for me, the main thing that it really brought up was I was like, oh, Dylan is a wild card and is only going to vote for himself in any situation. And I think like I already had a little bit of an iffy trust, but this kind of like set in stone where I was like, it's great that you're honest, but the fact that like you didn't go along with the plan and you were doing exactly what you wanted to do, with me, it was like, okay, you need to be the next to go.
Yeah, I don't think it really made me feel comfortable at all.
Okay.
But I do think that the way that Dylan talks about like his honesty in these kinds of situations, like backtracking, being like, I know I wronged you, but I'm gonna be honest about it. It like also gives you it feels like you have an in to like being the one to sway him in one of his directions because he is so wishy-washy. So I think that's more like, okay, well, I feel like he could be a good strategic like help in certain ways, but it is also like unreliable.
Yeah, I guess the word comfortable was maybe not accurate. I feel that people don't hold it against him.
Like
Like
That's fair.
no one's
it's
gonna retaliate.
it's better than if he like lied and then got caught in it. But
Hmm.
it's still like, I mean, it definitely came in handy later in the episode, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
kind of told me more about how his game was going and it helped me later. But
Right.
Yeah,
So
I think that it's, oh, I
no,
just
go
think
ahead.
he's always a player that you have to keep at like arm's length. Like it's you just have to keep your eye, on him.
Yeah. So in the same conversation, Ella admits to Jess that she fed Liz her name and said that
Mhm.
she didn't know if you would like stick with her in the merch. She says this is kind of like as if she was just like saying that to like give Liz a name. But it's interesting because that is something she was actually feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've recorded 3 episodes without posting them, so you haven't seen this, but we've given a lot of praise to Ella for a lot of her gameplay, and
Yeah.
I feel like even here, like she's like playing it very well, and
Yeah.
I give her kudos here.
Definitely. I will say I think I at the time was not feeling super good about the fact that she fed Liz my name because that's usually something you would like tell your alliance members about. Um, but I also was feeling like pretty at the bottom of this tribe at the moment. So I was just sort of happy I was still there,
I think
honestly.
also like on my end, not even knowing that Jess's name was out there and then hearing that it was Ella that kind of fed it, I was like, oh shit, I am definitely not in as tight with because it was pretty much like I trusted Jess first, then Ella, then Dylan. And like all of a sudden, I mean, Ella never went below Dylan, but like it was a bigger gap after that moment for me. So that was
Hmm.
definitely not the smartest idea to tell. Should have just been like, Liz went rogue. Like, what are what are you
Yeah.
gonna do?
Yeah. I do
So
think that like, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Just despite that moment, I did still have like Ella earns my trust back later in this episode as we move forward.
Yeah, so in this moment, are you kind of thinking that her and Dylan are closer than you anticipated?
At least
Yeah.
for me, definitely.
I think that that was my perception the whole time was that they were each other's number one.
Gotcha.
Except for when Ella would, I mean, like I felt like I was easily, she's just very good at lying. I felt like I was easily convinced that I was her number one. But my perception from the outside when I wasn't talking directly to her was that her and Dylan were each other's number ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part of the episode, Robbie.
I, I love Robbie.
Jess, can you tell us who Robbie is?
Yes, Robbie is the natural wildlife that we encountered. He was sitting in the nearby tree with his owner, and he was very sweet. And I can't believe I didn't say his name in the episode.
I was gonna
Very
say I
sad.
had no idea that was his name. Zero
Well,
clue.
I think I remember Zach was like, look. And then I like said hi. And then she was like, his name's Robbie. And I was like, hi, Robbie. No,
A
very cute.
big character in this episode because he also snitches on Zach finding the idol.
Yep.
Well, because the
Yeah.
idol was literally in the tree that they were hanging out at. That's what
Yeah.
nobody else had even gone close to that area. And I was like, we've been looking for a long time. And so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna go to where this random woman is sitting and go look, and it was there.
That is exactly why I didn't find it. Because she was like under the tree reading. And like I didn't want to bother her.
I had a game to play.
Yeah, you were
Excuse
out
me.
here.
I didn't even talk. I just went up and I was like,
Yep.
and then I ran.
So talk me through this moment. So everyone's looking for idols. Like what goes on in your brain?
So kind of what happened is we got back to camp. We're looking at our situation. We're like, we haven't found the idol and we are down so much going into merge. So we all just need to look. Any secrecy that was happening before about looking for idols out the window. We just need to find it so we have something to use if we make the merge to like help get us any leverage because we're at such a disadvantage. And so like we all start in the woods, we're looking around. And then we looked for a decent amount of time before I was like finally like, okay, I feel like it has to be in this tree, and then I was able to kind of get it. But of course, when I find it, Jess and Ella are both there, like pretty much watching me. So I was like, well, no secret to this idol. And so I was like, this is our idol.
You were gonna keep it a secret.
Oh yeah, if I had found it and nobody seen me, there's no way in hell I was telling anyone. But I had to just kind of go with what the situation.
Yeah. And yeah, totally. I would do the same thing.
Yeah, totally fair. So Dylan comes out the woods and he's like, man, can't find this idol.
And then me and Ella are really playing it up also. Like we're like, oh, I went so deep into those woods. I have no idea how deep we should be looking.
I also wrote here that during this conversation, you, Jessica, are panting. From what I can only assume is from the adrenaline of Zach just finding the idol. You're like, yeah. The idol, I don't know where it could be.
Well, I had just also walked through the woods for 10 minutes, so maybe that was also part of it. But yeah, no, I was very like, this was the first like lying or anything that I really had to do. Like the game went from like 0 to 100 really quick for the dragon fruits, I feel like, in this episode.
But yeah, you hit it on the head here, saying like everyone's kind of overcompensating with the idol talk, and that leads to Zach being like, well, maybe it's like that necklace that Kay has on. Was there any part of you that thought that it actually was?
I think what happened in the moment was I was like, what if it is like I kind of want to just call it beforehand just in case like it ends up being one, but that's ridiculous. It wouldn't be, which was stupid of me to do. I should have just gone up and grabbed it. But yeah, in hindsight, not the smartest decision, but I definitely think it was my ego being like, I want to be the one to call this if it happens.
Yeah, but also like what are the downsides of you getting a second idol when two of the other people know that you have another one? You know.
But also we were in such a desperate situation at that point that like I was like anything helps. And it could have been another one. I'm like, this is our idol.
Yeah. So as you're saying that, you see the wheels turning for Dylan. Like he's kind of like,
Yeah, I noticed that too. He's really thinking.
Like you could put a thought bubble there.
Yeah. He's literally like, he's not doing this, but he could be. He could be standing there like this. And then Ella also shooting herself in the foot. She's the one that brings up that it might be at the main campsite. Same situation. Like, being more aware and not holding her cards close to her chest there.
But also interesting because there's talk that maybe something is at the main camp, like the challenge site, tribal site, and the whole game there is that thing under my chair, and up until this point no one has found it yet. So
I do also
sorry, go ahead.
I want to say in our defense with that, we have had far less people sit out of challenges than the other tribe.
Had zero. Did we ever have anyone sit it? Yeah.
No one ever. No.
No
we
one.
No
lost
one
the first
ever
one.
sat out.
No.
Yeah, no one ever sat out.
So I mean, it is true. There were far less,
yeah,
less being 0.
yeah.
So we go to the challenge, and the succulents are not surprised at all that Liz is gone. It makes sense.
Yeah.
No surprises there. And it's announced that we're doing the blindfolded challenge where there's like a collar and then you do the puzzle at the end. And
And I'm
CJ is
scared.
sitting in the advantage chair,
Yes.
but alas does not find anything.
Yeah. I was scared when the blindfolds were mentioned.
If there's one thing about me, it's if you blindfold me and make me walk around, I'm not going to thrive in that environment. That is just not good for me.
It's always funny though.
It is always so funny. I
It's
was watching
never
this
not
and I was
funny.
laughing out
But
loud.
also that area had so many roots all over. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to trip and die. And like this is
Yeah.
gonna be it. But it was hysterical watching back of me like freaking out the
Yeah.
entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ella, I wrote that Ella's a very efficient caller.
Yeah.
She narrowly saves Dylan from running into a table. A little frantic, but alas, gets the job done quick. Meanwhile, Allie is kind of leaving her people out to dry.
Oh, I wish I listened a little better to Allie. I was fully distracted by the forward of it all.
Yeah. Which is how we clock that people from the New York area say forward. And that forward. Are you part of the forward gang upstate New York?
Forward, yeah.
Forward, yes.
Yeah.
And Ella is saying forward.
Okay.
Also notable.
Good for her.
Yeah. Good for her.
But no, like Caroline and Olivia are literally just like, I think at one point Caroline's in the back like
Olivia is like bent over, arms outstretched, spinning in a circle. And Allie, it takes Allie at least 10 seconds to figure out how to get her out of that situation.
And then funnily, when she finally does, Olivia, when she gets the block, she is running, and I'm gonna show you. She goes like a linebacker. She has the thing like this, and she goes. That's the way to do it.
I think I might need to watch this again, just for
fun.
Yeah,
I mean, I've obviously like watched these clips more than everybody else because I edited it. But
I will say also, I was definitely more focused on watching us do it, particularly me. I was at one point standing totally still for an extended period of time, and Ella's just like, Jess, go forward. Jess, go forward. And I'm clearly very scared to walk. And then I eventually do end up getting a block, but I did write, I'm useless in this challenge. And I think I was overall useless in this challenge. But we did get back to the table before the other tribe.
Correct.
We did.
And then you think that you solved it, but you didn't.
I also am pretty sure that there was I'm pretty sure that happened twice. I think only one of them made the edit, and I'm pretty sure that happened twice where we thought we solved it and it was the same situation where 3 sides were right and 1 side was wrong.
Yeah.
So the succulents get back thanks to the running back moment. And they solve the puzzle faster.
Yeah.
Like I honestly, my biggest regret in that challenge is still tapping out, because I think that it was like you needed to build momentum while solving the puzzle, and when things were going well, I was just like, okay, someone else try, instead of like
I felt like I was very close. Like I was getting really, really close. I just kept getting like, it's hard in the moment and you're overwhelmed. And Ella, when she tapped in, was extremely frantic and just started panicking about the time we were spending doing things, and it just got really like stressful just as you're like right across from the other team. It's very stressful.
I think with that puzzle, like the more time you spend with it, the more you're going to learn, because it's kind of like a trial and error a little bit. So like subbing someone in is like to your disadvantage, because now they're looking at it freshly, but like not in the good way.
Exactly. You're starting from square one when like at this point you've kind of learned what's wrong. Like, you know that like this block should not be showing this many colors of this like one color or whatever.
Yeah. And I don't think that it was from what I gathered from the footage, it didn't seem like the succulents were like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll put it this
Yeah.
way. It seemed like they kind of just happened to get it right. And they
Yes.
were like, wait, we did it.
Yeah. That's also what I gathered from Allie's retelling of the situation. She was like, Caroline just started moving stuff and it suddenly was right.
But maybe
Like,
Caroline did it, and
yeah, maybe she
know.
did, but
So yeah, unfortunately, you guys lose again, and they're
sad.
still going like succulents.
Yeah, yeah,
As if like they're like this is
yeah,
like a come from behind victory.
yeah.
Like they
Once
were like
again,
10 seconds behind.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys just look
At least they stopped.
absolutely defeated.
At least they stopped saying "fuck you" or "suck off."
Yeah, it toned down a little bit.
But oh, go ahead.
It was awful at this point. We just kept on losing, and it was like, and
I know.
I genuinely liked every person on our tribe. So every time we lost,
Yeah.
it was like, oh great. And also, I was like so new, like I had like decently recently met all of y'all, and so I was like, every tribal, I was like, this is when I go. I'm like the newest person here. They're gonna vote me out, and like,
right.
So it was just
Right.
stress.
Every single time we lost at this point, I just keep hearing like Liz is I can't remember what challenge we lost, but the episode starts and she goes, it was a devastating loss. That's what I keep hearing in my head.
Yeah. And it was.
Yeah, and it was.
So
and
anyway.
we're always so close, just always so close. Well, not with the carrying people one, no. To be clear.
No.
But
well, that was just poor design, but whatever.
Yeah.
So we have to have our camp discussions, who's gonna go, blah blah blah. Dylan is thinking Jess because maybe she'll flip. Because of, and I quote, this has been said multiple times, because you have so many connections.
So many connections. That's brought up several times. I did also think it was interesting that I, at this point, am being targeted for being a threat in the merge, whereas last round I was being targeted because I was weak. So I'm being targeted on both ends.
Yeah. And then Ella's also nervous about you, Zach, flipping because of your connection with Caroline. Which we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then there's Jess and Ella are talking about potentially being nervous about you going to the merge with an idol. What are your thoughts in this moment? Is this kind of like a front to Ella, or are you kind of genuinely like
me
get him out because he has an idol?
I think I'm being honest. I don't think that I'm someone who really has to talk through all the possibilities. I have learned playing these games, and I wouldn't say that I'm like intentionally hiding anything. Obviously, I'm not going to say to Ella that there's reasons to get her out as well. But I do think that Zach having an idol, especially if he wanted to go work with Caroline, that would be really bad for us.
Yeah. But you come to the conclusion that, like, knowing about it, you have kind of some power there. Yeah. So we go back to the succulents. Do you have more to say?
I just was gonna say, I also was like kind of feeling like you Zach weren't gonna work with Caroline at this point. Like I felt like they had been so strong and tribal that like
just the dynamics, the way that they were such like kind of sore winners the entire time. I was like, oh, that's not like we had really become really close as a tribe. I think that we all kind of felt that.
Yeah,
I just felt like a group that was going to be extremely hard to like weasel our way into, no matter how you slice it.
I know at this point too, I kind of felt like we were almost forced to be a duo because I thought that Ella and Dylan were like a solid duo, and that if like it was like one of us and the two of them, we would be the next boot no matter what.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it was also clear that you guys had some like animosity towards the other tribe. So I think the connections thing, it was a very thin argument.
Yeah, I do think that people were giving it a lot of weight, whether or not it was going to come to having any relevance. I do think it's like one of those things where it's like, same thing with like Dom and Liz being a married couple. It's one of those things where it's like, it's easy to just pin it on somebody for that reason.
Yeah. So we're back to the succulents because they're gaming hard.
And even though they just won.
Yeah, Allie is even clearer that she wants to target CJ, and she says, and I'll read the quote. I don't know if he's that much of a compies. He's just like a guy.
Yeah, I also
So
wrote that down.
she's analyzing her own like biases here.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah. She's like,
funny to
has he
watch.
really helped all that much in the challenges? Or is he
Is
just
he a
a
competency or is
taller
he just like a guy? Yeah, and then she says that I went in saying that I would take CJ to the end, but I think that's a fucking stupid idea. And that's a quote.
Which is like, I'm curious what her thought process is here, because she basically just said, I don't actually think he's that good at the challenges. I think that my perception just is. Maybe she's acknowledging that the jury may have a similar perception to her, you know?
Perhaps. I also think that was just her being like, well, is he? And then she maybe goes, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
No, he's good.
Yeah, so they're really like planning ahead for the merge, which I think is good, seeing as they have the numbers here clearly. But there's so much infighting, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Considering they really haven't had to get rid of anyone, like you think like you'd be like, oh well, why are we worried about getting people out? Because we could just all band together and like try this out.
Yeah, there are much more cracks than I would have guessed being on the other tribe. I would have assumed that they were like chilling.
Because after every challenge they won, they seemed so unified. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're talking about like who is gonna be like they're talking about your tribe and who's gonna be like, you know, an issue in the merge. And both of your names are brought up. Dylan's brought up. Zach, you know, they get some intel from Caroline because you're famously roommates.
And they were
and
roommates.
Caroline says that you will do pretty much whatever is best for you.
Which is true. Not a lie.
And then they kind of clock this in the same terminology that is also used in the Dragon Fruits episode, that Dylan is a wild card.
Yes, I thought that was very interesting. That we're both saying, and it was back-to-back scenes where we both call him a wild card. And I just think that is like the perfect way to describe him as a wild card.
And he's a wild card. But yeah, so that's really all the succulent stuff. We're back to the Dragon Fruits. And Zach says that he will use this idol for everyone. Like, this is our idol together. And then
I mean, I do think that there was some truth to that, in the fact that my thought for this idol was, if we get into the merge and we are super down, maybe the first vote, an idol play could get us on a more even playing field. And that was the dream and hope for this idol, just seeing how like unified we perceive the other tribe to be. In my actual dreams, it would have been like, actually I can just let her by and then use it at the very end, but we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah. And then Ella got something interesting here. Ella goes up to Dylan and it's like, I'm pretty sure Zach has something.
Yeah, well, didn't you guys had talked about it? Wait, I'm trying to remember.
Or was this a plan?
I believe that, I think maybe me and her talked about it. I'm trying to remember. It was on video. I just watched it.
Because I think you were trying to get Dylan to vote me, so in case Dylan somehow got saved, that I would end up going.
Yes, and I was down with that plan. I was fine with that, because I also, every time I talked to Ella, she made me feel really good as like the two of us, which is so funny, because I think that I don't know. I don't think she really would have worked with me that much.
Very good at making us feel comfortable. It was the same thing with me. Like, I feel like this is where it started to fall for me a little bit, was this episode, but it was definitely before that. I was like, is Ella my number one or is Jess my number one?
Yeah, I had a very similar like between you and Ella situation happening, who was my number one, and obviously this is where that falls apart because Ella leaves. But I would say this is where my peak loyalty to Ella was. But yeah, so we had talked about, she was like, I'm gonna get Dylan to think that Zach has the idol, so he'll write down, like, so we can flush the idol and we'll write down Zach's name. That was what was the decoy plan.
Yeah, that's interesting to me, because in the event, so what was the purpose of Dylan writing down Zach? I'm trying to think this through. Like, why does it matter?
I'm trying to remember
Because
what we had
the only way that it matters if that Dylan doesn't write down either of your names is if Dylan has an idol.
Well, that's why it's kind
And
of
we know
funny
that Zach has
because
an idol too.
no, I know. And I think it's kind of funny though, because it ends up mattering, first of
It
all.
sure does.
But I don't know why we thought it was important.
I will say on your end, it was a great move because he was going to write down your name if he didn't write down my
Yeah.
name. So like for you, it makes a
Exactly.
lot of sense. For Ella,
That's
it made
fair.
0 sense. So like I could see from your perspective being like, I don't want my name written down again because the more votes I
Right.
have when I get to the end,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
harder it is for me to convince the jury. But for Ella, no sense.
I think it would have been really hard for you just to convince Dylan to write down Ella's name. I think
Yeah.
it's a bad move on Ella to convince Dylan to write down Zach's name. I think her play here is to get him to write down your name.
Yeah. I mean, again, it doesn't really matter whose name he writes down if he goes home.
But yeah, this is the fallout in case he has an idol though.
Yeah, I guess.
because
We
he has
we were not concerned about him having an idol because we were like, there's no way they hit more than one idol.
why does it
We know
matter?
where the one is. I don't know. I maybe I should rewatch it again because we do Ella comes up with the plan. It's Ella's idea. And I'm like, oh, that's such a good idea. That's such a good idea. But I don't really know what the inspiration is,
Yeah. But it's good in theory, like for her to get the vote on Zach in case something happened. I don't know. And then like if Dylan had stayed, then she had no blood in her hands.
Like, what if like Zach and Dylan had a secret alliance and then Zach plays the idol on Dylan, knowing that we're all voting for Dylan, and then Dylan votes for Zach.
That would have been so gaggy.
Yeah.
That would have been very gaggy. I mean, what happened was still gaggy, but
oh yeah. This is by far the best episode.
Definitely.
So yeah, we get to tribal, right? Everyone's saying that they're gonna stay dragon fruit strong. And then you see as we're about to vote, Dylan stand up.
And I actually want to say something about this. It's not clear in the edit. Zach had already voted when this happens, right? You had fully already written down your vote. So just something to note.
Yeah. But it was so good. I was like, I can't not.
Yeah.
We gotta record this.
Every day I wish we had the raw recording of this because
the dramatic reenactment is accurate, but it's funny at the same time because like no one's winning an Academy Award,
No, certainly not.
I look so nervous. Like I am stiff during that because I was like, shit, is that actually? I'm like sitting there like, oh god.
I'm like, are you gonna take this off of me?
And then Dylan is like, would you stop me? And my favorite part is Ella being like, so what you got there?
These are the exact words that are exchanged. It's just the performance is a little less authentic.
Yeah.
It was actually quite intense when it was really happening. And I remember Dylan being like, the way he like had asked if like you were gonna like stop him like from taking it off of him was kind of crazy. Like he was like, are you gonna stop me from taking it off of you? I just thought, so I just wish, I wish.
Yeah, so a very gaggy moment, because Ella asks about the idol, and then Dylan is the one who pulls the trigger here. And here's my thing. Obviously, you had already voted. I think if someone had raised a flag, I would have allowed for a revote, like allowed for Zach to like potentially like write a different name. And in hindsight, I would have done that, but even if you wrote on the same name,
there was no time to come up with a new plan, and I don't think it.
Yeah. But in this moment, I think Ella's best play here is to flip her vote to Zach.
Yes, it is.
Because when it's revealed that it's a tie, now she has Dylan on her side in this case.
But she just betrayed him.
She just betrayed him, and ultimately, like, he doesn't really care. I mean, you can provide some information here, but from what I understand, Dylan is kind of persuaded by you.
So kind of what happened was the vote reveal happened. We go back to have our conversation, and I'm like, I need Ella to go because I know that Jess is more loyal to me than Ella is. And so we start talking. I like want to go through both, and then I kind of just say that I'm like, we're coming close to the merge, and Ella's going to be a lot better at competitions than Jess is going to be. Because I just knew, like from early in the episodes, like Dylan is playing a very selfish game and like is going purely off of what's going to get him the furthest. And so I was trying to kind of paint Ella as the target, and like it was amazingly quick how quickly he was like, okay, yeah, Ella
Yeah.
can go, and I was like, why are you letting this happen? Because if we're staying in
Yeah.
a tribe for anymore, then hopefully it just trusts me more than you, and we're on a better side. But I thought that it was crazy how pretty much quickly that conversation ended up going in my favor.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like it would be the right way to convince him because he had already voted me because I was not helpful in the challenges from his perspective. So like that he's already thinking that way, and then you just have to remind him, there's going to be competitions when we get further, so that's going to be better for you.
Yeah. Do we think that there's a world where, in this fantasy land where Ella voted for Zach and we had like a 2-2 vote, Dylan is like really committed to keeping Ella and like maybe you flip or maybe there's a deadlock? I don't know.
I don't think I would have flipped at that point.
What if he's
But
like
also,
really strong? Like he's really like I'll go to rocks.
I'll go to
well,
Rock.
even if we
But
went to
he's
rocks,
safe.
wouldn't it be between the two of them because we both played
Yeah, it
idols?
would
So
be.
I'm pretty sure I just would have been like, okay, let's leave it up to fate
I'm
then.
curious how that would have gone.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't see a world in which Dylan pushes that hard for anything.
That's
Is
true.
the way that I see it. Like he is always, again, wild card. I would say that he pretty much could go any which way under any given circumstance, depending on what you say to him.
And I do like to believe that I was very convincing because they definitely brought up like the whole, because at the beginning of like our discussion for the vote, I was like, maybe you should vote for Jess because Jess has more connections on the other side or whatever. And I definitely brought that up
Connection.
again, but then I was like, but competition wise, we're talking about our individual immunity chances, then Ella has a better chance. And I also
Yeah.
thought that Ella also was well connected. I don't know why that was my argument for Jess, but
So clear. The only like real connection that she had more than the others was Caroline.
Caroline.
Yep.
Yep.
And like
That's
Ella
literally
is
the only
closer with
difference.
Gabby and CJ.
Yeah.
But I
So
also didn't know that. So that was
Yeah. It truly was just the fact that I knew everyone pretty
to an
much.
extent,
Like
yeah.
except for Olivia. But like no one was that close to Olivia except for Liam. So it was pretty much just like it was like an all-encompassing way people could target me.
Yeah. So Ella goes here after your deliberation, and we've discussed this. Chairs in this game represent life.
They do.
And I'm very serious about this. We have a theory of, or I do.
Kay has a theory.
I have a theory of the chair curse.
Oh.
Because in the episode before Liz goes, she's not sitting on a chair. She's sitting on a blanket. And you know who was sitting on the blanket last turn? Last tribal? Ella.
But now no one's on a blanket.
Huh?
But now no one was on a blanket.
No one was on a blanket, but I'm taking
And that's why it was so close.
but I'm
That's
taking
why
note of all the chair stuff. We also have some chairs that break throughout the season, which is interesting. And yeah, that's we'll keep tabs of the chair curse. I'm having fun with it. Jess is kind of like, all right.
Well, it's because my main thing against it is there's multiple people sitting on the ground in those first few tribals, so it doesn't
let's
really
take note of them moving forward.
Okay, but if your theory really works, I think it makes more sense if the one person who's sitting on the ground is the one who goes home next. Just saying. I'm happy to entertain the chair theory.
As we move forward, I will be bringing up the chair theory. Okay. All right. So Ella is gone. She obviously
Okay, well, we didn't really talk. I feel like we didn't really go into the reveal of the idol being
I'm so
real.
sorry.
We kind of glossed over that. The
Very true.
gasp that we gasped.
I mean,
I was so shocked.
you can see me like grabbing my bag as soon as Dylan plays it and like waiting because I'm like, if it isn't real, I'm not playing this because I do
Yeah.
have faith that I'm not going home. But as soon as it was real, I was like, I do not trust this
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. And then we totally just like lose Zach's idol, which is just like the worst part of the whole thing, I think.
And whose fault is that?
And you could have said vote down Ella. Write down Ella.
It's not my fault.
Hey, if you had done
nothing to do
nothing,
with
Dylan was writing down your name and then we still have had an idol.
And
So
you would have been
true.
gone.
And but it was Ella's idea. I am simply a bystander. I am not good at this game in this season. I will tell you that right now.
I mean, same.
I thought I was playing a much better game before this rewatch. Yeah, no, I'm pretty much just a puppet at this point, I would say.
I mean,
I'm just going with the flow.
mode. I was in survival mode the whole time.
You can
So
blame Ella
we-
for that when she comes on for her exit interview.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Ella is going to come on in a moment and we will get some perspective on her thoughts about her vote out and many other things. So stay tuned. All right, and with us is the gorgeous Ella of Dragon Fruit fame. Ella felt very passionate about sharing some of the comments that she had while rewatching this episode. So please feel free to share.
Thank you for such a lovely introduction, Kay. Upon rewatch, I just had a few things that I thought were kind of funny. Number one has to be Allie referring to me as herself.
Yes.
I think that she and I, in our day-to-day lives, get confused for one another on a regular basis. We're best friends, and also our names have similar vowels in them. But for her to refer to me as her was, to me, a top tier moment. So that one, I just wanted that in the books.
I think we need to get like
My
a therapist in here to unpack that. Like really, really delve
Wait.
deep.
Almost Doctor of Psychology.
Very true, very true.
What are our thoughts?
As
My
a
fav-
non-clinical psychologist, she's really messed up in the head.
My favorite part about that is how long it takes her to register that she's done it. Like she knows something's wrong, but I also want to say that like we are constantly by Allie yelled at for mixing your names up.
Oh,
Because-
constantly, yeah.
And she gets so mad. She's like, wow, you think we're the same person. And then she does that. And then she mixes herself up with you.
Any other comments?
Other comments I had were another Allie versus me comment was the forward versus forward during us calling, which I thought was fun to listen back to, knowing that
we discussed the accents, don't you worry.
yes.
And
yeah.
thank you for
And-
saying it correctly.
Yeah, we clocked that you were on the right side of history with this one.
Yeah.
As a non-native New Yorker, I definitely say it differently than some of my New York friends.
The right way. The correct way.
Okay.
That, and finally, I need to figure out what mascara I was wearing at that time because I think my lashes looked amazing and I don't think they've looked that good since.
All right, noted. We will look into it.
Thank you.
Okay, so now for the real interview. Not that you aren't appreciated. So, coming into Central Park, 9 a.m. What are your expectations for the day, and do they live up to them?
My expectation was that we were going to be celebrating my dear friend's birthday by doing what she loves most, which is kind of torturing us through games in some fashion. I expected to be challenged. I did not anticipate to be emotionally challenged, to be physically wrung out, and to be truly amazed by the feats that you had gone to develop what was truly a cinematic experience for us all.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I don't think it helped that your tribe was so decimated by the time you were
So
eliminated.
bad, really.
I don't know what you're talking about. We were clearly controlling the game.
Yeah, I mean, how did it feel to like lose and lose and lose and lose and lose with one?
Um, It didn't feel great. I think that there was there was some winning in there, I feel, and I feel that in my heart we were winning. I felt that we were a stronger tribe emotionally. Like I think that we were connected in a way that the others were not. I know that even in this episode we reference like them coming into the challenge having been a little sore winner vibe. So
Yeah.
I would say that's a thread that we follow throughout the series.
Yeah.
The succulents winning energy.
yes.
Yeah. So I'm interested to know what was your perception of your position in the tribe?
Mm. I think I was not 100% sure where I was, but I felt pretty good about where I was. I felt like I had a strong connection with Jess and with Zach and with Dylan, honestly. So for me, like Liz being voted out previously was beneficial because I didn't feel that I had a significant connection with her at that point. And so it was good for me, for my game, for her to be gone.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes like in previous discussions that we've had about
Yes.
this season, I feel like sometimes you are unhappy with your performance. And
Yeah, I definitely am. Yeah.
I want to say that you have fans on the Mams Talk podcast.
Certainly, yes.
And
Thank
I will
you.
reveal that
Mhm.
you have received the episode MVP not only once, but twice.
Twice?
Twice.
Ella.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I'll take
congratulations.
it.
You were that little
I think
badge.
that I'll say this. I will say this in my favor. I think that I played a good game up until I opened my big old mouth and then didn't act. I think that I kept on yapping and I did not walk the walk.
Yeah. So looking
I
back,
think it.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think after rewatching this, it's clear to me that you were the most powerful person on our tribe the entire time you were there, and you also just were in the best. You were just in the best position. I
Yeah.
would say you got screwed.
And you know what? You're so right about that, Jess. We're so right about that. And I don't want to say anything crazy. I don't want to name names, but it's almost like someone on this call could be blamed. I don't know who that would be.
Zach, what do you have to say for yourself?
Like
I will
you
s-
obviously. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
I'm just saying that if you had let Dylan vote Jess, you would have survived.
That is one of the things I wrote down is that I 100% know it was you. Because there was
who
no like Dylan I don't think was at all
No,
wanting to get
Dylan
rid of me. Or
No,
like
Dylan should not have gotten rid of you.
Yeah.
Like I was it was very clear to me that you two had like probably like the closest bond on our tribe. And so when it came down to it, I was like, okay, I really need Jess to stay or else I would have going next if we had another tribal.
Yeah. I was not worried about Dylan backstabbing me necessarily. But I was aware that he would switch sides if given the opportunity. And so he was definitely an easy person for me to be like, hey guys, we shouldn't trust him, but also to him be like,
I'm
I got you.
curious, and we discussed this amongst the three of us already.
Hmm.
Why did you want to put Dylan's vote on Zach, knowing that he had the idol?
I think that I got a little cocky and didn't think that Zach would feel vulnerable. I thought that he would be convinced that I had encouraged Dylan to vote for Jess again, given like what had already happened.
Gotcha. And this brings us to the big question. Why don't
Yes.
you take the idol?
Because I didn't want to upset you, Kay. That's the God's honest truth.
So you thought if you had taken my necklace off that I would have been like, Ella, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, I truly did. I was like, I thought that there was like enough of a chance that you would be like, get off me, that that I was like, I can't do that. I was like, it's your birthday. I was like, I'm not upsetting you today.
And I'm really attached to this necklace, okay?
Well, I had never seen you wear it, so it was like a weird, I don't know. It was all weird. And like I knew in my heart that it was I was like, I knew it was an idol, and yet I couldn't like
Yeah. I
bring
am
myself
sad that
down.
I didn't get to like hide the clue and
Yes.
whatnot. I fully expected it to go under everyone's noses until that clue came out.
I
So
think that you just don't often wear
well,
necklaces.
it was for the vibe. Like I wore the buff and the necklace.
Yeah,
Yeah. I will say
yeah.
I obviously knew that was not your necklace and it was not a personal fashion choice.
No.
And yet I was oblivious to the fact that it could have been
Oh,
an idol.
yes.
I'm
Jess was
so
also
upset with myself for not thinking of that.
I did have to lie to her in the morning about my attire because she was like, "Oh, what's that?"
I did. I was like,
And
oh,
I bought it for
choice.
like my costume.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
she was
did
like, this
fit the
is my-
vibe.
It did,
Right.
and it was
I mean,
cute.
Jeff wears a similar necklace. It doesn't have a turtle, but he wears like a little like shark tooth or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels right.
So
for
it's not
him.
that weird. But you guys
No.
did clock it.
Yeah.
I will also say I don't think there's any world in which Kay would be upset at someone trying to obtain an idol by whatever means necessary.
Please,
Yeah.
please, even if it was a personal necklace and you
Yeah.
had taken it off of me and been like, I'm
Yeah.
playing this and it was fake. Oh, what am
Well,
I?
here's the thing. I think now I know that. Like,
Yeah.
I know that you live for the drama and you would sell your soul to get like 10 more viewers on this on this.
10.
That is not
Kay's
true.
farming views.
I do it for the love of the game.
You're so right. You're so right.
And let's be clear, I'm not doing this podcast for the viewers.
Hello
The
to viewers that
fans.
are watching this.
Hi viewers, we love you.
I don't think
We
there's
love our
gonna be
viewers.
many.
Well, we have some rabid fans.
Yeah.
Rabid.
It's the question of if those fans can help you find what brand of mascara you were wearing.
That.
No, and that's the truth. I think
it to Reddit.
I think that it not
Put it in
to
the
put an
comments.
ad into this, but I think it was benefit, but I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. We'll look into it. So yeah, looking back at the game, are you able to pick out some like highlight moments? Or does the Miss Idol play, is that like the big thing that sticks out to you and it's like hard for you to focus on other aspects?
Oh no, I can definitely focus on other stuff. I think that like I just overall in the game or specifically
The
in
whole
this
thing?
the challenge where we had to like get the flag like from the other person felt like a real highlight to me. I think that I really put the fear of God in some people when I looked at them in the eye.
We did note that you and Gabby look like you have real life beef.
Well,
You're
we
both
are,
terrifying.
we are both absurdly competitive people, and I think that it just really came out. And so winning that, I think, was definitely a highlight for me. Probably a low light for her, but
Yeah. And obviously you come back to play Survivor Skinny Atlas with
yes.
Alongside your two castmates here. But after some analysis of this game,
Yes.
is there anything you learned about yourself or how you want to play the game if you were to do it again?
I think that I need to watch my mouth. I think that I think that playing fast and loose is good, honestly. But I think that if I'm going to talk, I need to walk. So that's my main takeaway.
Wow.
That's a good little motto to have.
Thank you.
We'll film that.
I also just want to read Ella a comment that I wrote from
Oh.
earlier in the episode, which I can't remember what I was referencing because I wasn't specific in my comment, but I said, Ella, where is the Oscar? 4 exclamation points. Because your lying is really convincing.
Well, I appreciate that because I did feel I wrote down when I'm talking to Dylan in particular towards the end that when I know it's him, that I feel like I'm not very convincing. But I don't know if that was true.
I mean,
Yeah,
you made
I mean,
me feel
he
so
voted
comfortable.
yeah,
if he
I mean,
felt comfortable, then go off, Ella.
let's put
I
it this
actually
way.
think that's what I was referencing.
Ella,
You talking to Dylan.
Yes.
let's put it this way. Every person that you talked to and told them who to vote for, they voted for that person.
And that's the truth.
Up until this point. So,
Well, this is the last point that I can tell them to vote for someone. So, yeah.
well, we don't know. So this brings us to the episode MVP.
Yes.
Let's discuss who have we individually selected, and then we will come up with a collective
Okay.
crowning.
Okay.
Anyone want to start? Jess.
I guess I'll start. Okay, I usually start these. Okay, well, I always have a few names rolling around in my head. I do think the way that Dylan saved himself with the idol was iconic. However, I did eventually give it to our very own Zach here because you pretty much decided Ella went home, you saved yourself with the idol that you found, and you made strong bonds that could take you to the merge if you made it there. That's what I think.
I agree. I also had Zach. Yeah, I think the fact that like he seemingly had the sole decision here and was like, and his bond with Jess was the thing that was going to carry him forward. I think that is very powerful, and also his read that Dylan was going to vote for him is huge. He knew that he had to play that. But shout out to Dylan.
Shout out to Dylan.
If anyone on the succulents deserves an honorable.
Well, I wrote. Okay,
no,
go ahead.
No, you go.
I wrote that it's hard not to feel like Allie should be up there because all of the footages of her. But I don't really know. Like she had some iconic lines, I think, such as saying that she was originally going to take CJ to the end, but realized that's a fucking stupid decision.
Yeah. Her confessionals carried the succulent tribe footage that we had here for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I was gonna say with Ali as well, like being able to get the secret out of CJ that he really didn't have the idol. That was really good social gameplay. Like I was like, okay. Yeah.
No, I agree.
I agree too.
But we'll never know what the other people were doing.
We will never know. I was gonna say I think I would definitely give it to Ali out of all the succulents.
Yes.
But we did not see much of them. So
no. And that's on them. We all
the fact that she was so like wishy-washy of whether or not she should get rid of CJ and if it's a good idea. It's not enough for me.
No, I agree.
I agree. I haven't been super impressed with Allie's game just because I know she has the right idea, but she has not been, as Ella said, walking the walk, you know?
Yep, as Ella says.
I do think that, well, what I originally wrote down is that if I can't say myself, because I do think that I, even though I got voted out, played a very good game this episode.
Yeah, we can't give it to you a third time. I'm so sorry.
I mean, you could.
On your vote out episode.
I was gonna say I would give it to you, and I actually was thinking about it. However, because you leave, I simply can't.
And that's fair. Some would say that I left because I was so powerful and such an MVP, but you know,
True.
you can take
So
that how you
true.
want. No, Zach is the correct answer.
Zach,
It's very clear.
congratulations. This is our first time crowning an episode MVP while they're here.
Who's
So,
on the call?
I mean,
I'm
how does
so
it feel to
honored.
win this award?
It honestly feels amazing. I'd like to thank everyone for their support. I'd like to thank my parents. I'd like to thank the general public. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of course.
Wait, Zach. So who did you have for MVP?
I don't want to sound full of myself,
Okay.
but I
Got it.
I did have myself, but
I kind of got
No,
that
that's
sense
fair.
when I was like, anyone want to start? And you were like, no.
I was like, I'm not gonna talk because I don't want to. But I do think like I did make a lot of.
Yeah.
This is probably the best so far that I felt about my game watching the season. So
No, don't feel bad. That's totally
You gotta give
totally
yourself credit.
valid.
It's called.
And we're watching these as we're putting on our objective podcaster glasses. And we're talking about the game like it's chess.
yes,
So that concludes the episode 4 deep dive. Congratulations, Zach, on your major award, and thank you for being here. Also, thank you to Ella.
Of
I'm
course.
Get this talk. This is probably the longest one. We really were gabbing.
Ooh.
So
It's a Gabby episode, not a Gabby episode, but
The Gabby one.
episode.
So with that, we will sign off. Until next time.